Friends, can your health make you a public charge? That's the question that I'm going to tackle in this video. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching this video. As you guys know, I'm Latoya McBean Pompey. I'm an immigration lawyer in New York, and I'm also the creator of Smart Immigration Academy. Thanks for watching, for sharing, for subscribing, and for being plugged in. I'm creating this video, I want to be very clear, I'm creating this video for those of you who are out there who are concerned about how public charge may impact you personally or your relative. That's it. This video is for you. It's to help you understand this issue and to help others understand it as well who are deeply, deeply concerned. So we're going to talk about factor number 2 in the public charge test. In my earlier video, I talked about the first factor, which is age, and why age matters. Health also matters. How does health matter? Health matters because the government wants to know whether you're suffering from a medical condition that will interfere with your ability to work, go to school, or generally take care of yourself. So that's how health is now relevant to your green card application. Health is connected to work or your ability to enroll in school or to take care of yourself. Now, you guys know that as part of the green card process, one has to go to a doctor and get an examination done, and that doctor fills out the I-693 medical examination report, seals it, puts it in a sealed envelope, and hands it back over to the person, and the person then takes that report to the green card interview. And the adjudicating officer opens up that envelope, checks out the report to determine whether there are any issues that would make the person inadmissible. And this is the process that happens here in America, and it also happens overseas for those who are going to the embassy, going through the embassy process. So health is not new to immigration. It's part of it. What is new, friends, is health being connected to public charge, and more importantly, whether your health condition can interfere with your ability to earn an income and to take care of yourself. So that's what's at the heart of this issue about your health. However, as we've talked about in other videos, the government is going to be weighing factors, positive factors against negative factors. And so now that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to talk about how health can be a positive factor, and then we're going to shift gears and talk about how health can be a negative factor. And then finally, we're going to talk about what you can do to overcome that. So if you're interested, stick around until the end. So how can your health be a positive factor? Your health can be a positive factor, friends, obviously, if you have good health. If you don't suffer from a condition that debilitates you, that prevents you from working or going to school, your health is good. It's a positive thing, right? Check. Health can also be positive for you, friends, if you can prove to the government that you're earning enough money or income to take care of yourself in the future should a medical issue arise, right? So you're earning enough money to take care of any future medical costs. So that's positive. What about showing a heavily weighted positive factor? How can you show a heavily weighted positive factor? Friends, if you have private insurance, insurance that you're paying out of your own pocket, that is a heavily weighted positive factor. And you guys know, as I've talked about in other videos, when you have a heavily weighted positive factor, that really weighs down your the positive factor, so to speak, and it really boosts your chances of being approved for the green card, right? Because you have that thing. So having your own private insurance that you're paying for out of your own pocket is a very, very strong addition to your green card application packet. What about if you have Obamacare? or you're getting insurance through the Affordable Care Act. Well, that's fine. That's not a negative factor. It's actually a positive factor because it shows that you have insurance. However, it's not a heavily weighted positive factor. It's just okay, all right? But it is positive. Now, the next question is, how can your health be a negative factor? And so, firstly, friends, the health can be negative if you have a medical condition that does interfere with your ability to work or go to school or to take care of yourself and your family. If you're suffering from a condition that prevents you from working, the government will look at that as a negative thing. And so if that's the case, friends, you're suffering from a serious medical condition. And so it's so unfair, right, that this is thrown into the mix. But it is for public charge purposes. I told you guys in the last video that the more information you get about public charge, the angrier you may become because it's very, very harsh. And in this aspect, it is definitely harsh because who chooses to be seriously ill? No one wants to be that way, right? But for purposes of public charge, having a serious medical condition that interferes with your ability to work or go to school or take care of yourself is considered a negative factor. What is considered a heavily weighted negative factor? A heavily weighted negative factor, friends, is if you have such a serious medical condition that I just talked about and you have no insurance. Okay, because what that says to the government is that you're going to depend on the government for care, for long-term care. And so if the government determines that you're going to need long-term medical treatment and care that is subsidized by the government, they will deem you a public charge and deny you of that green card. Now, friends, the next question is, you know that you're going to need to get that medical examination report done, that I-693, and disclose on that report what medical conditions you're suffering from. The next issue is, well, what evidence can you provide to show that despite the fact that you may have this negative factor related to your health, how can you overcome it? How can you move past that, right? So that you can be approved for the green card. And so this is where the I-944 comes into play, right? The Declaration of Self-Sufficiency, which goes into effect on February 24th, 2020. On page 7 of that form, question 15, it asks, do you have health insurance? And so if your answer is yes, the government wants you to provide copies of evidence to show that you do have health insurance. It also asks you questions about how much you're paying annually in your premium and when your health insurance is going to terminate and when are you going to get it renewed. And if you do not have health insurance, it then asks you, well, are you planning on getting insurance? If so, when, right? How soon are you planning on enrolling? And if your answer is, actually, I'm not planning on enrolling and I don't have insurance right now, the next requirement is you need to tell us how you plan on paying for future medical expenses if they do come up. You have to be able to explain that you can take care of your medical expenses on your own if they do come up in the future. And so that's on the Declaration of Self-Sufficiency. So the tips that I want to leave you guys with now in terms of how to really make your application packet very strong if you have medical conditions that you will have to disclose to the government through the green card process now. It's the first thing that I would tell you to do is get insurance. Get insurance, get insurance, get insurance, right? Get insurance, friends, because that is going to be a very positive factor for you. It becomes a more heavily weighted positive factor if that insurance is private and you're paying for it yourself, or your employer is paying for it, or it's a school-sponsored insurance plan. If it's any of those things, it's a heavily weighted positive factor. But if you don't have any of those things going for you, those kinds of plans going for you, and you only have the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, that's fine too. Provide evidence of that, because that's also a positive factor. Thirdly, I would say that if you don't have insurance and you have a relative such as a spouse or a parent who can vouch for you and submit a letter saying that they can help you pay for any future medical expenses that come up, that's also persuasive, right? If you have some sort of letter or an affidavit from that close relative telling the government that they're going to stand by you and they are going to help you pay future medical expenses should they arise, that's also very good to have in your packet. And then lastly, friends, fourthly, I would say that as much information as you possibly can submit with your packet about your health insurance plan and the extent of its coverage, show your premium payments are being made, and whatever medical condition you may have, it's under control, it's not interfering with your ability to work. All of those things can be very, very persuasive, including a letter from your employer stating, yeah, we understand that John suffers from this condition. However, it is not interfering with his ability to work. And he shows up to work every day on time and he's a good worker. Letters like that, very persuasive. So I've given you some tips here on how to handle this whole health factor and how you're able to bolster your packet, your application packet, to make it stronger in spite of the fact that you may have a health condition. So don't freak out, because health is part of the public charge rule and you may be suffering from a health condition. It does not have to stand in the way of you getting a green card. So I hope you got that. I hope this was helpful to you. Friends, pass this on to other people because they may be worried right now, and something that I shared in this video may very well help them to worry less. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, in which we're going to talk about public charge factor number 3. Thanks again. Bye-bye.